And a short time ago I spoke with the opposition communications spokesman. Malcolm Turnbull, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Isn't the problem that you face that you're running an accountant's argument against the argument that all Australians should have equal access to fast broadband?
But we agree that all Australians should have equal access to fast broadband. That's not an issue. The issue is how do you deliver that in terms of value for money, both for the taxpayer who's paying for it and the consumers who've obviously got to buy the service.
How do you know that what the government's doing, that the costs won't outweigh the benefits, that the benefits won't outweigh the costs?
What I'm saying is you can get the same benefits at lower cost.
How can you?
Well, by just being businesslike. For a start, when you look at every aspect of this network, whether it's the satellite piece or the fixed wireless or the fixed line to the homes, do a proper cost-benefit analysis, look at the various options, look at them transparently, weigh them up and then make a decision. Now, that is the process that should precede every major infrastructure project. It's the process that the government said would precede every major infrastructure project, but for this one, they haven't done it, and that is why at every turn they are taking the most expensive route for every step, which is why this project is going to blow out in terms of cost and time.
Isn't it true that we can't imagine some of the benefits that we're going to see from this kind of technology?
Well, it may be that you can't imagine the benefits, but I'm telling you that you can achieve the benefits imaginable and unimaginable at lower cost.
It's true, though, that this is one of the things in the government's kit bag which is very popular with people, and you've got a very difficult argument. And are you getting any traction with it at the moment?
Well, I think so. Increasingly, I think people are starting to realise that the NBN is not delivering what it was cracked up to. I mean, let's just look at a few numbers. They've been talking about this for 4 years. How many people are connected to the network? 4,000, less than half of which are connected to the fibre to the home network. They are running way behind in terms of connections. As far as we can see, they have not passed any additional households with fibre between the 30th of June 2011 and the 31st of December 2011. Now, that's unbelievable.
Not possible to imagine that when the benefits become obvious that more people might sign up?
Well, I'm talking about passing homes, so that's actually rolling out the network. Look, there is no question that people want fast broadband. The issue is, do you need to build a network this expensive to deliver it? Now, everywhere else in the world, and this is very important, we are not alone. We're not the first country in the world to discover the joys of broadband or the fascination of Facebook. The fact is, everyone is building broadband networks around the world, and everywhere else they are doing it differently to us. They are doing it more cost effectively. They are using legacy infrastructure, the copper, the HFC, where they can, without compromising the broadband objective. And the one thing nobody is doing, not one country, is building a massive new government-owned broadband monopoly.
Assume you come to government in 2013, given the current timetable for an election. What do you do with satellite contracts that are already signed, with broadband, with fibre that's already in the ground?
Well, you obviously, if it's in the ground, you leave it there. I mean, Julia Gillard keeps on saying we're going to dig it up or tear it up, presumably with our teeth in her fevered imagination. Any infrastructure that has been bought and paid for will be made use of, and will seek to achieve the highest value we can for it. Well, if we've got a contract that is a binding contract to deliver the satellites, then you may well be stuck with them. I mean, that is the price you pay, I guess, or the taxpayer pays for having this government that is so reckless. I can't, if we get into government at the end of next year, for example, I'm not going to be able to turn the clock back, and I'm not suggesting that the federal government would renege on contracts or scrap contracts or anything like that.
You're making an economic argument saying that this government is incapable of delivering on a $42 billion program. Why can't your own side of politics work out whether or not it's going to be able to deliver a surplus?
Well, the coalition has said in the 2010 election campaign that if we were elected, we would deliver a surplus in 2012-13. Now, we did not get elected, obviously, so we're not responsible for the budget at present, being in opposition. What we're saying is, what Joe and Andrew are saying, is that if we win the next election, which we assume is end of next year, that's when it's expected to be, we will get to a surplus much sooner than Labor would.
Isn't Joe Hockey saying yes and Andrew Robb saying maybe? Couldn't they get their lines right?
Well, you've got to ask them about it. I mean, I'm not the economic spokesman for the opposition.
Can you really promise a surplus when you really don't know what's in the books in any event? Can anyone promise a surplus over the horizon?
Well, I think all you can do really is, if you are in charge of the budget, like the government is, you can say, it's a bold thing to say, you can say we will deliver a surplus next year. But of course, not everything's under your control. You don't control the revenue line. You've got a fairly high degree of control over costs, but not entirely. So you are somewhat at risk of even a promise in the near term being found out. But to say there will be a surplus 4 or 5 years from hence, all you can say credibly is that we will run the economy as we have in the past, prudently and responsibly, and therefore it is much more likely that we will have a surplus than Labor could.
And one thing you can say for certain is if you make the kinds of cuts that the Coalition is talking about, there will be pain. Benefits will be cut.
Well, you're quizzing me about Joe Hockey and Andrew Robb's foreshadowed cuts, and you really should talk to them.
Given Kevin Rudd at the moment seems to have not a Lazarus-like, but also almost a Messianic-like ability to rise from the dead and be talked about again as a possible Prime Minister, is a comeback for you to the leadership impossible?
Oh, well, there's only one Lazarus around at the moment, and that's Kevin. He's more than Lazarus. He's well out of the political grave. I think he's about to strike.
And could you rise again?
I think we'll just focus on Kevin for the moment. I think we've got a very effective leadership team in the Coalition, and I don't think there's any prospect of any changes to that, certainly between now and the next election.
So your expectation is that Tony Abbott will lead the Coalition's next election?
Absolutely. That is my very definite expectation. I would say that is 100% certain.
And Julia Gillard?
No, I don't think so. My view is, look, I don't want to be a commentator on this stuff, but I'll yield to your persuasion. I think Rudd will succeed Gillard. I think, as Howard always says, politics is governed by the iron law of arithmetic, and he's plainly much more popular than she is. I think Julia Gillard is very damaged by the lack of faith people have in her after all of the broken promises, and even things like this Australia Day incident where a member of her staff, effectively G'd up that incident. It's not good. So I don't think people have confidence or feel they can trust Julia Gillard, and I think that's, politics is a relative business, so Rudd looks better relative to her.
Malcolm Turnbull, thank you.
Thank you.